I just wanted to put together this video, especially for those who weren't there on the weekend. Last Sunday was Vision Sunday, and we spoke a little bit about the vision of Generation Church moving forward, what God has called us to be, what kind of things has He called us to do to influence and impact the people around us. And so there were a few things that we shared. But when you talk about vision, vision is basically just a picture of the future. And when God gives you a vision, He's giving you a picture of the future and what He wants to see happen and to try and make that a reality. And so when I ask God for vision, I'm asking God to give me imagination. And I would start to imagine what kind of future that we could have at Generation Church. Imagine a place that is so loving and so welcoming that when people walk through the door, they felt like they've come home. I love the idea of home, coming home or being home. Home is a place where people feel comfortable. People could be themselves. They don't have to perform. They don't have to impress anybody. They just fit. They just belong. We want people to come home and have that feeling of belonging. When I think about this, I think of Jesus telling the parable of the prodigal son. You know, the prodigal son took the inheritance from his father and wasted it all away and wasted his life, and he messed his life up. And so he goes back home to his father to try and make amends, and he thinks to himself, I'm not worthy to be called a son anymore. Maybe my father will hire me as one of his servants. But when he got home, how did the father respond? The father is thinking, servants? That's the furthest thing from my mind. You're my son. You've always been my son. That is who you are. I want you to be yourself when you come home. And so I love that thought of people walking through the door, wherever they are in their journey with God, that they would walk in the door and they would feel like they've come home. These people are genuine. The presence of God is here. I feel like I fit. Also, can you imagine a place where people encounter the presence of God? So the church is not just a social group. We're about Jesus, and we want people to encounter Him. And I remember the first time I walked into a church and I encountered God for the very first time, and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this before. Something within me came alive. Imagine a place where people come alive. They walk into this place broken or hurting or have disappointments or confused, but then they encounter not just a loving community, but they encounter the power, the love, and the presence of God. And when people encounter God, they are restored, they are healed. Anything within them that's broken is made whole again. And I love to have a picture, a church that is not just loving in its community, but people that would encounter God. Can you imagine a church that invests in other generations or future generations? And we are called Generation Church. We welcome all generations, but generations that would input into one another. Can you imagine if we inputted into the younger generation? That we would input into these kids and build the kids ministry up and disciple these kids and grow these children? I believe we can become a church that could really focus on kids ministry and reaching out to kids in the community and reaching new families. And we're praying for ways in which we can do that. I can imagine a church where that could happen. Imagine a church where Jesus is honored, the gospel is preached, people belong, and lives are changed. That is the kind of church that I see. When I dream about a better day, when I dream about the kind of church that God is calling us to be, they're the kind of things that I do dream, and I believe that that can become a reality. And so we need people in our church to commit to building that kind of culture. But the church is not just being, it's about doing. Yes, it's the people of God coming together, but more than that, or in addition to that, it's about going out. Jesus gave the Great Commission to go out into the world and make disciples. So we as a church are called to impact the community around us, to impact this world with the love of God so that people may see Him and come back home. So in what ways can we as a church reach the community and invest in people's lives? Well, that's what we're going to spell out in the next few months. A number of us a few weeks ago got together. We wrote a few ideas down about how we can love the community and bless the community and serve the community. And we don't want these ideas to simply just be ideas on a piece of paper. We want to try and put them into practice. So 2017 is going to be a year of trying new things. God wants us to make an impact, so we're going to try new things, and by God's grace they'll come off and our church will flourish and grow and become a presence in the community. That's what I really want people to experience of us at Generation Church. But what the commitment I want to ask of you, though, is to commit to the vision of this church, but more importantly, commit to Jesus. Commit to your relationship with Him. Go deeper than you've ever been before. Seek Him more than you've ever sought Him before in your life. Get more committed to prayer. Get more committed to the Word and to be used of God. Because if people are going to see the love of God in our church together as we gather, then it needs to flow from what God is already doing in us. So I want to encourage you to commit to your walk with Jesus and to be more in love with Him than you ever have been before, and commit to the vision of the church and making this an awesome and great church for people to be a part of.